Oh, Jim is there. There we go.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'll call to order the April 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Aceves.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Commissioner Geyer.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Kiriakou.
Here.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Magana.
Here.
Commissioner Mosby.
Here.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Patino.
Here.
Commissioner Stark.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lee is absent.
Thank you. At this time, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is the approval of minutes of the March 6, 2025 regular meeting.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman.
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Abstain.
Commissioner Hartman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou.
Abstain.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Stark.
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes with 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Now we move on to public comment. So now is the time for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. And did we receive any requests to speak on items on the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, we have no request to speak under general public comment.
Okay, do I have to check in Santa Barbara, or did you already do that? Yeah.
We can check in Santa Barbara to see if there's anyone in the audience.
We have no one in the audience in Santa Barbara.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the consent calendar. Does any commissioner wish to pull any of these items?
Hartman moves approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Geyer.
I have a motion to approve and a second. So any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman.
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriakou.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Stark.
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item is item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to present a certificate of appreciation for Commissioners Janelle Osborne and Jim Richardson.
So do we have Commissioner Osborne or Richardson here?
Richardson.
Chair Patino, we have Commissioner Richardson in Santa Barbara, and unfortunately, Commissioner Osborne is absent.
Okay, so how do I hand him this long distance? We'll get it to him. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And thank you very much, Commissioner Richardson, for being here and for serving.
Well, it was, I loved the job. That's all I can say. I hated to be under the shadow of Shane, though, but it was it was a great adventure.
Well, thank you. I wish you had been up here so I could hand you this nice multi-million-dollar plaque we got for you.
I would love to have it.
Well, we may not give it to you because you're a no-show, but we'll get something to you.
If you would,
But thank you
please.
very much, Jim, for your service.
Well, I enjoyed it. That's all I can say. I just hope it wasn't a disturbance.
Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Patino. I just want to take the opportunity to just acknowledge and show my personal appreciation for Jim. I've been working at the county for the last 13 years, and and Jim's been a part of all those 13 years. Versus primarily the mayor of Solvang, which he led heroically that city for many, many years, but also his service on a lot of the regional leadership positions, obviously at SBCAG and APCD. I followed in Jim's footsteps and now serve on the Calvans board of directors, and that's something that I had for many years got many reports from Jim and wanted to take up that mantle with him, and then obviously his time serving here at LAFCO. Jim, you've been a great friend and a great servant, and again, I just wanted to personally express my appreciation to your many years of service, and wish you ongoing success and friendship in the future.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, this is Joan Hartman.
Yes.
May I add something too?
Yes. Commissioner Hartman.
Thank you. When I think of Jim, I think of a man standing on the corner of 246 and Alamo Pintado raising a sign at election time. He's much beloved in the community. Everybody would go by and wave and honk their horns, and he really did get out into the community and heard people, and I think he did that even as a LAFCO commissioner. So he's an extraordinary, ebullient person who just exudes a lot of joy about serving the public, and it's contagious and it reflects well back on all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Aceves.
I just wanted to say a couple things. Jim has been a personal friend for many, many, many years. And when I was on this commission previously, I was the one that encouraged him to apply. And lo and behold, I'm the one now that replaced him. And I feel terrible, Jim. I do. But thank you for your service.
And I also would like to chime in and thank you very much, Jim. I always thought you did such a great job as mayor representing your community and advocating for your community. And as mayor of Santa Maria, I see that so necessary. We may not agree necessarily on certain things, but when I see a mayor or a supervisor advocating, and that as they should be, advocating for things that are necessary to be done and the issues that affect their community and their area, I think it's really important. And a lot of times people don't get to see that out there. We see it when we sit here on the dais with one another. So I do want to thank you very much, Jim, for your service.
Commissioner Geyer. Jim, I want to thank you for your wealth of knowledge, and I've learned a lot from you over the years, and I really appreciate your service.
Thank you, Greg.
And Jim, I'll just add, as a newer commissioner, I've appreciated your graciousness and your good humor. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you all
That's it.
for those comments. I just wanted to tell Roger, though, that the reason I got on this commission was to hold his seat for him, so when he came back, he would have it. And then I also want to thank Shane for giving me some advice from a younger individual to me, because about wanting to live a good life. Shane's argument to remain on the commission struck home for me, and I appreciate you, Shane. I appreciate being in your shadow, and I wish that some days you wouldn't come to work so I could be here.
Wait, if I might, I just want to tell you, I really appreciate working with you all this time. It's been a real honor. I think of you as just a model public servant. The idea of what a local government official is supposed to do, both in terms of speaking and listening. I would advise you. I think you owe me some baked goods. I don't know how you're going to get them to me, but some baked goods would be
I
appreciated.
think you can trade for the certificate, maybe some bartering here, swap.
Well, that would be a fine idea. Anyway, I wish you all the best.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate
Chair
it.
Freeman? I'm
Not,
Chair
not
Freeman.
Chair. You're Chair.
Commissioner Freeman? Forgot.
Yeah, Jim, I just wanted to say that please do not take my lack of any good, useful comment here as a fact that I don't care. I'm just having a difficult time coming up with the right words to say. But I mean, you were on the commission back 10 years ago when I had first started paying attention to LAFCO, and the very friendly face that you've been here has always meant something. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
The next item of business is item number 2. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider recommendations regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
And Executive Officer will present that.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission. Good afternoon. A brief PowerPoint presentation for the Commission and the audience. This is our draft proposed 25-26 LAFCO budget for the upcoming fiscal year. LAFCO acts as an independent commission. You get to carry out your specific duties and objectives based on the Cortese-Enoch-Hertzberg Act. And the responsibilities also include adopting a budget to fulfill that purpose. So in January, we prepare a work plan that gets adopted. So we have our assignments and our duties that this work plan lays out before us, that we're preparing a budget to be able to actually perform that plan. The government code also requires that after we conduct public hearings, that we send the budget to the member agencies and the county and the different departments so that they can weigh in on the draft budget before we adopt a final budget. The draft budget has to be heard no later than May 1st. So obviously, April's an opportune time for us to hold it at our April meeting before we hold our May 8th meeting, so we can meet that May 1st deadline. They'll provide us comments. We'll bring the item back. It's recommended to come back at our May 8th for a final adoption. And the statute requires that the final adopted budget be approved no later than June 15th. And so we do have a June 5th meeting that we could extend the meeting to if we received enough comments that resulted in significant changes. This year's recommended budget is proposed at $635,804. It is an increase of approximately $43,804 above our current fiscal year. The statute also says that it has to similarly match the budget to perform our duties. If it is anything less then we have to adopt certain determinations as to why the budget's less than the previous year. And so that's why we always compare the new budget versus the previous year. There's a couple of reasons for this increase. Again, there was a CPI issued for your executive officer at our last meeting of 4%. We're also proposing a 3% for our other staff. The SBCER's pension rate increased by 14%, increasing our budget. And then the commission authorized an extra help position that's coming out of our professional and special services line item for that extra help employee. That would increase by 40%, that line item. This year, we're also recommending to use 10% out of our contingency fund to help offset that member agency contributions because of those increases to those line items. So as we typically try to reserve that contingency reserve for when the county's cost allocation plan cycles through its wave. As we all know, it sort of goes up and then it goes down and up and down. This happens to be a down year for the cost allocation plan. But nonetheless, the other costs were up enough that I felt use of contingency reserve was adequate in this case to sort of even out our overall cost in our budget. And that still left a healthy reserve in doing that. So here's the comparison of 23-24 typo on this page. That proposed column should be 24-25. You can see the increases there in the use. There's also another typo I wanted to line out on the total line. For the new proposed, it says 635,804. That's actually 645,804. When we take the 10K out, then it reduces it to 635. So the overall number is adequate there. But this particular chart, the formula got misconstrued. It didn't actually calculate my formula math. So I apologize for that. But the overall budget recommended is $635,804. So with that, we're recommending that the commission review this proposed budget, accept all the public comment that you have, and then direct staff to distribute this proposed budget to the city and the special districts in the county as required, then schedule another hearing for May 8th so that we can consider the final budget. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
This Commissioner
Mr. Prater,
Guyer,
can you go?
Commissioner Guyer, I do have a question. Mike, have all the participants paid their 24-25 dues?
So Commissioner Guyer, through the chair, we only have one agency that did not pay their dues, and that would be the Cuyama Valley Recreation and Park District, which owed their dues was something around, I think, $34 or something like that, or it was a small amount of dollars. So significantly, our revenues are up over 100% this year, but that is one agency that didn't, and they've gone through, what I understand, a number of staffing changes, and so it's been difficult to reach them. Both myself and the county auditor team have been trying to reach them so that we can get that payment. That payment, although it may not come by the end of this fiscal year, will stay on the books, and we will ask for reimbursement along with their new distribution for the new fiscal year 25-26. And so they'll owe us both payments next year if they don't pay this year.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just have a
Starr?
question about the last thing. Did you say that the bill to the Cuyama Rec and Park District is $34? Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct.
That's like a lunch at the Buckhorn. Yeah, I forgot.
I'll split it with you, Shane. Let's do it. I have a question, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. What was our last year? Did we end up in the black or the red? And what was our leftover last year at the end of the budget?
Yeah, so we're still in last year's
Right. So
fiscal year, so we don't have final numbers. But if you look at the consent item 2, which was the third quarter, so that represents where we're at. So our expenditures are well under at 60%. We're at about 75% of the year. Our revenues are at 101%. So we're over.
We're doing well. And so
We're going to have excess at the end of this year. I anticipate, this budget is anticipating somewhere, I believe, around 11,000, but I think it's going to be closer to 15 to 18,000 added back into our contingency.
that's what I was going to ask you. That rolls into contingency. What's our contingency balance right now?
Yeah, so our contingency balance when we started the year was at 298,000. We expect it to be somewhere around 300,000 by the end.
Excellent. So I'm doing well with that. So thank you for sharing that. And I just want to point out that last year we took $20,000 out of contingency balance. This year's 10. So we're doing better on that route as well. We've got this grant coming in. We also have some bigger projects that are ahead of us. So when we're looking at potential revenues for 25-26, how do we see that mix between our member agencies versus some of our applicants and outside funding?
Yeah, so if you look at the line item attachment A, you'll see I budgeted another $20,000 in revenue from applications this year. What that doesn't include was a recent conversation that looks like the Montecito districts are back at the table for consolidation. So I suspect it'll still take them a year or more to probably come to fruition as a full application. But if that comes in at the tail end of 2026, before the end of the fiscal year, that application alone's probably over $10,000. So on a balance, I think we're conservative on our revenue projections for applications, and we're probably spot on with our 1/3 mix with our members.
So when do you charge, just to help me and probably other commissioners that have the same questions, when do we charge applicants? I mean, because you're out there having conversations now, there's not an application out there yet. You know, there's other annexations that you're in meetings with all the time. Do you charge for those hours, or do you wait till you're actually doing specific work on an application? I know anytime you pick up the phone and call our planning department, you're being charged.
No,
so-
we do not charge for any of those hours that we work
That's
prior
kinda
to
general- that's kinda
prior
general
to an
overhead?
application.
Okay.
That's just general service, public service that we provide to make sure that we get an adequate application submitted in a fair condition so that we're not having to spend those extra hours once the application comes in. So we do not charge until a formal application comes in, and then they pay our rate structure on that.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Any other questions or discussions?
Yeah,
Commissioners?
Commissioner Guyer. Mike, when was the last time we took a look at the fee schedule? I know over the years we've talked about it a lot, but it would seem that we should at least take a look at it and possibly adjust that on an annual basis for the CPI, just like we do salaries.
Yeah, Commissioner Guyer, through the chair, the last time the commission considered fee structure adjustments was in 2017, so it predated my time. I brought an item forward to consider adjusting those fees in 2021, at which time the commission felt the fees were adequate, and so we did not take another look at that. But that conversation is happening amongst other LAFCOs, and I've been part of a email thread that has looked at some comparison in cost, and our fee structures is one of the lowest amongst the state of other LAFCOs. So it may be germane to take another look at those if the commission at some point under a future agenda item requests that that item be placed on the agenda, we can bring that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. And any other questions from Santa Barbara? Okay. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion. Approval of the budget.
Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Hartman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Could we include direction to come back with an agenda item, as Commissioner Guyer suggested, looking at our fee structure?
Commissioner Hartman, to the chair, I would suggest that you make under future agenda requests that you ask us to bring back an item that addresses fee structure and that we move forward with the budget as proposed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, any other? Oh, I thought I heard a second. Did you say?
I made the motion.
Oh,
Hartman
I'll second it
seconds.
okay. Okay. Nelson, Hartman, okay.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Hartman, would you like to make a motion at this time that, and direct, or just direct that a fee schedule is brought back for a future agenda?
I would like to do that, Madam Chair, stealing Commissioner Guyer's idea, but I guess it's under Commissioner and staff announcements in our agenda now that I see it. And I guess that's what Director Prater was
Oh, okay.
referring to.
Oh, okay, thank you. Next item of business is item number 3. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to consider a request from the Los Olivos Community Services District to extend the time to successfully conduct a Proposition 218 assessment as required by Condition B7 in the Resolution 17-03, approving formation on April 13th, 2017.
And the executive officer, Mr. Prater, will be making that presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I have a brief few comments before I turn it over to the district for their presentation. I think as the district indicated when they asked for the extension 2 years ago that they would likely be back for another extension. So I think this isn't a surprise to us. The effective date, again, was in 2018 when the district was formed. This extension request, this will be their 5th request that will run the application or the condition compliance out to the year 2027. So the district is prepared to give a presentation with their board president and their general manager. So at this point, I'll turn it over to them and pass them the PowerPoint stick.
This is just a talk, right? Oh, it's on, it's on. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Julie Kennedy. I'm the current board president for the Los Olivos Community Services District. And on behalf of the board and members of our community, I'm pleased to provide this update to you in the continued efforts of our transition from septic to a more sustainable, safe wastewater collection, treatment, and disposal system. Over the past 2 years, we've worked really diligently and hard to evaluate and explore all the potential options and address the community's long-term wastewater needs. And so for some of you, this is probably already familiar information. For anybody who's new, this is what our district looks like. We're small. Mostly residential, of course, and the budget, of course, is funded right now with a special assessment on the property tax for the property owners in the district. So very simply, this is what we're trying to accomplish: figure out how to collect it, treat it, and dispose of it. And I'll give you a little bit more information on what we've managed to come down to. As I mentioned in the opening, we've really worked hard to try to explore all the options and really at the request of the community, wanted us to really look at all the viable options. So we have had several workshops over the course of the last 2 years and since the formation, honestly. This is what the community has said consistently are their priorities. Cost, obviously, always usually everyone's number one priority. Ownership, is it who owns everything? Is it the district or the individual property owner? Siting, of course, is an issue. Growth is obviously a very big issue, especially in the San Ynez Valley. And odor and viewshed impact. So again, trying to keep within the feel of our community, really, really important consideration for the property owners. All right, so we've done a lot of work, as I said. So we have now completed a 30% design on collection for the gravity, for a fully gravity fed. We also went ahead and explored what an effluent option would look like. And if you're not familiar, the effluent option means be a step system tank. It would treat the solids locally on the property, and the effluent would be carted off for treatment and disposal. And then on the disposal, the community, this was at a workshop some time ago, had expressed the desire for percolation chambers if we were to treat locally. And then the other option, the other item, when the board first formed, we did discuss doing a phased approach, a phased implementation. And over time, we've determined that the cost of doing that would significantly increase the cost for the ratepayers in the district. So we've actually started looking more at an implementation that would be holistic for the community. But if we did move to any phased approach, commercial would be, of course, the first phase of that. Oops, here we go. The other thing that we've done is we've drilled some wells. We've got 5 wells now that we've been testing, and you'll see a slide here in a couple down the road that shows what some of those testing results look like. And also just want to mention that for our groundwater program, we actually won 2 awards, which is pretty significant for our little tiny, teeny tiny district. So that was pretty exciting. All right, so what we've come up with are the 2 options, a local option, and this is what we're looking at, rough numbers here. We've actually done quite a bit of work to try to get this as accurate as possible based on a lot of prior studies and other assessments. We've worked really hard with various experts, agencies, et cetera, to really understand a lot of these various costs. And what we've done is we've categorized it into the 3 different options. Fluent means everybody's on a step tank that, again, solids treated locally. The effluent would be carried off for the treatment and disposal. A hybrid collection system is exactly that. There would be some gravity and some effluent. And obviously, it would be the downtown and the small lots that would be on a gravity-fed system. The larger outer lying lots would be utilizing an effluent or a step tank for the treatment or the collection, treatment, and then subsequent disposal. And then, of course, the last option is gravity-fed, your traditional sewer, if you will. And so these are what the costs look like for local option. This means we're treating locally somewhere within our district. Again, the treatment and the disposal happens locally. All right, and then the next slide is same thing, the effluent, hybrid, and gravity. This time, the treatment and disposal is happening in Solvang. We would run a pipe down Alamo Pintado to the Solvang treatment facility where the wastewater would be treated and then disposed of. So it is a little bit less, of course. Big factor, of course, if we went with a local option is we got to find some place to do it, and we got to buy that parcel. It's probably not going to be cheap in Los Olivos. The other thing I just wanted to mention at this point is that we're coming up to this critical decision. The board is going to be voting here no later than the June board meeting on a final project design. And that's really important. Like I said, we've evaluated all the options. We've explored everything. We've listened to the community. We've had numerous workshops. We will have another one at our May meeting, prior to our May meeting, where we're going to present to the community all 3 options, collection, treatment, disposal, based on the effluent, hybrid, and gravity fed. And again, whether we treat locally or if we send it to Solvang. To get their feedback so that the board can vote accordingly. And this will be an important platform where the community can provide input and their opinion, et cetera. And then, like I said, we'll be voting on a final course of action no later than the June board meeting. All right, so as mentioned before, we did drill some wells. We have 5 wells now, and those are the various testing results. So you can see some wells are the groundwater is in better shape than others. We'll continue to do this on a biannual basis. The next set of round of testing will come up in May. And certainly this is going to help us as we go forward, especially if we get to the point where we actually have something in place where we can start to really see, are we making an improvement to the overall quality of the groundwater in the district? Okay, so what's next? I just want to point out again for anybody who's relatively new to this board, originally when this district was formed, we had explored the option of treatment with Solvang, and Solvang had come to one of our board meetings. I know I was on the board at that time. Anyway, and they said, no can do. We can't treat your wastewater. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. So we actually did spend quite a bit of time looking at the local options. However, more recently, the Solvang option for treatment has come up. And partially probably because they're having to make certain upgrades to their wastewater plant, and as a result, there's additional capacity. So we've embarked on some design work to see what is even feasible for the community. And I just want to point out that in this discussion with Solvang, one of the critical things that we looked at is if we run a pipe down Alamo Pintado to Solvang, what happens on the growth front. And I'm really happy to say we've consulted with our legal as well as the county, who has weighed in on this. And the good news is, if we put a pipe down Solvang, Los Olivos Community Services District owns that pipe. It's like a transmission line. So that means that anybody on that corridor cannot plug into that pipe. So that will really, that addresses a major concern of the community, which is the growth. You know, we're creating some sort of unbridled growth by running this pipe down for the treatment of our wastewater. And then, so we hope, like as I said, we are going to vote on this. The board will vote on this no later than the June board meeting. And then we expect to just start on the 80% design right away. And our environmental work, the good news is, if we do end up, if the community does go with Solvang as a treatment and disposal option, we do expect that the environmental work will be reduced because we're not introducing anything new. So that could be a bonus, again, depending on where the community is on this. And then our plan is that we should be able to line up for a Prop 218 vote by 2026. Here's the schedule. If you just point out over on the far right side the total costs, and we've been working really hard to determine our funding availability. And yes, of course, we're going to go out and try to field grants wherever possible. I mean, we did get in. Well, it's been approved, not appropriated, as part of the WRDA grant through Representative Carvajal's office. Unclear if that's going to end up coming through at this point, but. Yeah, we do have some big numbers coming up in terms of financial needs, but, and that actually, frankly, is what's going to, the financial end of it is going to really dictate how quickly we can get this moving. Right now with the budget, we will probably have to do things in a linear fashion unless we are able to procure some grants for some of the planning and design work. And of course, that's going to extend the timeline somewhat, but again, we're working on to see where we can find additional funding. So here's our, limited funding, a big one. I mean, right? Everybody's got limited funding. And then the other option, the other issue for us too, is if we do treat locally, is just finding a place where we can do it. I will just add that one of the options that we are exploring is potentially something with Dunn School. Not that we would hook into their system, but we would potentially be able to cite something there for a local treatment option. We'll actually be meeting, General Manager Savage and I will be meeting with Dunn School next week to explore that as a possibility. We do realize if that were to become if that possibility exists and it's open, we do understand that that means there's some additional work we'd have to do, such as coming back to LAFCO. Dunn would have to become part of our district, et cetera. So we're aware of some of those other issues that would come into play should we treat locally, utilizing Dunn as our partner. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to say. I want to also just point out that the board, as the president and on behalf of the board members, we really appreciate LAFCO's support all these years. It's been a lot. I mean, you have a lot of people who don't know anything about wastewater, learning about wastewater treatment, and we do respectfully ask for an additional 2 years. I feel the board has done a tremendous job in the last 2 years, really moving things forward. We've listened to the community. We've tried to be as transparent as possible with everything we do, recognizing that input and the facilitation of information to the community is so critical in terms of making a decision, having the broad support of our community for what we do going forward. So again, thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, et cetera, I'd be happy to field that.
Any questions from the commissioners?
This is
Commissioner Stark?
I have a question for our staff, I think. And it has to do with a letter that we received concerning the results of the monitoring wells and indicating the desire that LAFCO shrink the size of the district. Is my understanding correct? We do not have the ability under the law to do that. Is that correct?
Commissioner Stark, to the chair, that is correct. Adjusting the boundaries of the district is not one of the authorities that the commission has to initiate. There are some things that the commission can initiate: a dissolution of the district, a consolidation of the district, or we can form a new district. But modifying the boundaries, adding property or subtracting property is not an authority that the commission has available to itself to initiate on your own. That would have to come from either the district or the individual property owners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patino. So help me with that. Detachments, so if somebody thinks that they shouldn't be a part of this, they could go through a process to potentially detach from the district?
Yeah, that's a whole separate process.
Okay. And they'd have to make some kind of, we'd have to make some findings, and they would have to demonstrate the reason why, and
Right. Yeah,
that would-
and early
trying to
on,
imagine what that would look like.
early on, if a property owner wanted to detach, the district will be notified if they're not the applicant themselves, that our office has received an application for a detachment. They would have a time frame in which to respond to that. They could declare that could be a financial burden to them, or their particular ideas of a plant, in which case they make those findings and determinations. It terminates that application immediately, and it never moves forward through the LAFCO process. If they do not make those determinations, then it would move forward, and the commission could decide whether or not subtracting a property inhibits the district from doing what it set out to do.
Okay. I have a couple other questions, but I know Commissioner Hartman, who this is in her in the district that she represents to the county, I thought I heard her jump in, so I'd let her go before I ask my questions.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to just add a question. So if they added the Dunn School, for example, that would go through the same process that you just described. Director Prater?
Correct. So Dunn School, we'd have to amend their sphere of influence and then annex that parcel in. And so that's a process in itself, the reverse of a detachment kind of a thing.
So I just wanted to note, I know this has been a long history, and the LAFCO board has been very patient. I think it's been a process of a lot of study, a lot of community reflection, lost a lot of ground during COVID, and almost had to start over again with community education. And I think we can't emphasize enough that the city of Solvang was not interested at first, and now that's a real changed condition. So having observed this process, even the district hadn't been formed yet, but the issue has persisted for decades, and my predecessor was much involved with the formation of the district, and I've continued that. And I've seen a real evolution, and I think the leadership and the community are now really to a point where they will hold to this calendar, and so I'm very supportive of granting this. I think they've got some realistic proposals that the community can support, and everybody's ready to get, to finally make a decision and move forward.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Freeman?
So I'd been interested in, I think, something related to this this question a long time ago, and when I was like asking about it before, please, this is a question to staff. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. That like the size of the district currently has been determining the assessment that was for the purposes of doing the study to determine what should actually get done, and the community was entirely involved in that. And for some reason, the district had come to the conclusion that only 2 properties needed something, that then the thing that they would have built would have then caused a like a benefit assessment or something that would have ended up just billing the properties that would actually receive the benefit, or would the subsequent payments have then had to come from the entire district?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Maybe I can take an attempt to address this. Commissioner Freeman, through the chair, I think there are a number of still processes that the district has to go through. Yes, they currently assess themselves to be able to fund studies and operations. If they get a successful Proposition 218, that's another assessment to actually fund the new plant or connections to something. And there's an assessment that's driven by an engineer's report that will determine the benefit each property gets as to what their assessment will cost. And if there are properties within that aren't billed because they're not part of the process of treating that effluent, then they could, at a later date, decide to detach themselves.
Okay, I guess the question that I was having is that, like, I was kind of under the impression that the goal of this question is mostly just to try to make it so that I don't have to think about this, is that if the district had ended up deciding that the only thing that needed to be done was the downtown core, for example, then presumably they would make a 218 election that was focused on the people who were actually doing the benefit, and the subsequent taxation would not come from the entire district, or am I wrong about that?
No, that's correct.
That is correct. Okay, yeah. So in that sense, sometimes it's like it's not really our problem. We would need to shrink the district because the district would sort of shrink itself by just billing the people who are actually benefiting. What's the problem of being part of a sewer district that you're not getting sewer from? It seems like it's not really that big of an issue. Okay. So the other question I have is I'm curious. I know one of the things you've had to work with over the years is like the regional board has had a lot of demands on what it is that you actually do, and I'm curious what the current status is with respect to the regional boards. Like, what do they want to see you actually get done in the very near future?
So I'm going to let General Manager Guy answer that since he's had more of the discussion directly with the regional board.
Commissioners, thank you. Guy Savage, General Manager for the district, through the chair. Commissioner Freeman, so we've talked to the water board monthly. I had another conversation with them this morning. There was a letter that they wrote basically saying, yes, you guys are, they're generally supportive of the direction we're taking. Their focus is on a successful 218. That's their bottom line. They support effluent. They support gravity fed from a collection perspective. They support going to solving. They support a local. Now, doesn't mean they don't have a preference. Their preference, of course, would be that we go to solving. It's one less plant, right? The fewer plants that the community has, the easier it is for them to manage, for others to manage. And we avoid a bunch of the issues like trying to staff a plant and all those sorts of things. So generally speaking, I on behalf of the water board, I guess I would say that they're supportive of where we're at and where we're going. We did request that they submit a letter saying one way or the other where they were at. I didn't see one as part of the packet, so I'm assuming they did not do that. But again, they verbally said they support where we're at. They too, like all of us that live in the district or work on this project, would like to see it go faster. But they recognize, they think we've got a reasonable plan, and I think we do. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of gives you data points.
Thank you. I'm very excited that you would actually get this through to completion, and certainly, I mean, us not giving you an extension is not going to get anyone sewer faster. So please get this through to completion. And actually, I realized there was one last thing I wanted to say on that previous point, maybe make it land a little cleaner to people who are like, what is Jay talking about here? Is that, but the district, in all of the analysis, has so far decided that the sewer should apply to the entire district, and so therefore it's like that's not even one of the questions that was being brought up here. And so because the district's community's own process has kind of come to the conclusion that this entire area is a problem, including what previously we had heard from the both the county and the regional water board and all the studies, that we should have the full district. So, yeah.
Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you. My question was about some of the statements that President Kennedy had about just trying to understand a little bit more about that pipeline that would go to solving, and that you guys would own that. Would it also be restricted in capacity as well? Because, I mean, and maybe council can help me with this. I mean, just because it right now, doesn't mean that that you guys own it, doesn't mean that you guys couldn't allow access in the future, or some other entity might be able to acquire that through other means. I'm just trying to understand what that might look like.
So the pipe would definitely be sized to handle the capacity for the district and no more. And in terms of any other entities wanting to connect in, they would have to come to Los Olivos district. Well, first of all, they'd have to be in the district. If Los Olivos Community Services District granted them access, then frankly, we'd have to grant access for anybody who requested it. And again, that entity, that property would have to become part of the district. So that means we would be coming back to you, looking to assume
Out of the
additional.
area service agreement, is that what that would be potentially?
Yeah.
Commissioner Nelson and Commission through the chair, yes. So there's a couple of options. An out-of-agency service agreement could be granted if the district chose to serve somebody outside of their district, or an annexation application could be granted. So those are the two options if this new pipeline were to be tapped in by some other outside property.
And what about could the county at some point use eminent domain to acquire that pipeline? As it, it's going through county property or
Yeah,
county jurisdiction?
ownership is a completely different animal. It would not involve LAFCO in itself.
Right. So if there's ownership from somebody else then uses it to then promote growth somewhere else along that pipeline now that's there. But I guess that's where sizing is going to be really important. Because I'm really sympathetic on the growth issue. I mostly don't think that we should be using, utilities and scarcity to control growth. I think that's why we have elected leaders to control growth. But unfortunately, we're now losing our power as elected leaders to the state. So we no longer have power over growth. And that really concerns me as an elected when we start thinking about these things and these tools that I would never wanted to use. I never wanted scarcity to be one of the things that we use to drive land use decisions. I do think we have to start to seriously consider those things in the future because of what the state is forcing down on local jurisdictions. So I'm very sympathetic to those that are concerned about that issue and would just really encourage if you guys do go down the solving route to make sure that you guys are, I know it'd be tempting to make it big enough for future users and future, reasonable growth. And maybe there's a 10%, capacity or 20% you guys might want to look at there just for, because there will be some changes within the district. There'll be ADUs in the district. There'll be other things that you guys are going to have to serve. We just had to make a decision on a jail and we're building it to what the needs are today, but we know that things are going to happen in the future that are going to be outside of our control. So, I think it's probably prudent for you guys to consider that, but also I think it's a careful balance because you don't want to open up opportunities for unbridled growth that you guys might not be able to, put back in the bucket or whatever the mixed metaphor I'm trying to use here. So, anyways, just thank you guys for the presentation. I'm generally supportive. I do want to hear from the public. I think there's going to be public comment about maybe extending the period of time, but I think that there's a lot more that needs to be looked at here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Aceves?
Yes, thank you. I was on the commission when this whole process started, and I've been gone for a couple of years, and this is my second meeting back, and I was surprised to see this on the agenda. So my first question is, has your district, I know in the past you'd give regular reports to the commission as to what's happening. Is that still happening?
Yes, we were actually just here, it was about 6 months ago, and gave an update to the board, to your commissioners, and we'll continue to do that, of course.
Yeah, if I may also, we do send a quarterly report to Mr. Prater, so we do send an update quarterly to your commission.
Well, as you must understand, I have a learning curve coming back because I don't know what the commission's been doing, but I'm very familiar with the ups and downs of this, the issues you've had for the years since you began. So my question is, obviously what it sounds like, Solvang seems to be the perfect solution. I don't know about Dunstable, but with Solvang, and maybe this is to staff, what can this commission do to help this district move forward expeditiously? Because I hate to ask the question of what happens in 2 years if they come back again for another extension. I don't want to see that. It seems to me that we have an obligation in helping them moving forward. So what can we do as a commission to step in that role?
Good question. Commissioner Aceves, through the chair. I think continued support allowing the extension is the formal actions that this commission can take. If solving plant is chosen by the community and ultimately by the district, an out-of-agency service agreement will be needed for the city of Solvang to connect to Los Olivos CSD. So the commission will weigh in on that application, and expediting of that application is something that you can have a direct influence on. Outside of that, obviously, individually, the commissioners can support the district in its efforts to pursue one option or another. And you can certainly give some direction to them as part of this hearing about what your preference is. But I think what we heard from the board president and their staff is they're going to hold a public workshop and they're going to get buy-in from the community. And ultimately, they need buy-in from the community because the protest vote is going to come from that community.
Okay, can or should we provide assistance in resources to maybe the meeting they're going to have, maybe resources to Solvang so they understand, I'm sure they do, but maybe understand, they maybe have questions on the process. And I'm just trying to find a quick solution to move forward. Again, I don't want to see this back again in 2 years.
Yeah, so certainly we've been in communication with Mr. Savage about different processes, and we will continue to offer that free of charge, as we indicated during the budget. Whenever an application is anticipated, we'll get involved early. We'll make sure they're informed so that they make all the right steps, so that it's streamlined when an application comes forward. And we can continue to offer that. If the commission is interested in monetarily resources, then that's a different question that we would have to factor into the draft budget that we just proposed and how that might look. So that's a separate item that would have to come back for the commission's consideration. But right now, we will offer all of our staff time to make sure that whatever future plans hold for them as far as actions that the commission needs to take, we will set them on the right course.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear, Madam President. I think you have the full support of the commission, although I speak for myself, that we want this to move forward. So avail yourself to the resources.
Do we have any questions or comments from Santa Barbara?
No more.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Freeman?
On the note of the potential growth inducement along the path to Solvang, I mean, I know so in your presentation you were mentioning the collection. There were possible options, which were gravity and et cetera. But am I still under the correct belief that the way you would actually get something all the way to Solvang would be a force main?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct, Commissioner Freeman. A force main from basically the bridge at the south end of the district to the north end of the city of Solvang.
For what it's worth, in my discussions with Jeff Hodge, who was the general manager of the San Ynez Community Service District on this topic 9 years ago, there was this there was this idea of looking at like aren't people going to want to build up all along this pipe? And he was like, well, that's a force main. I mean, you're just going to keep tapping that force main. I'm kind of under the impression that like just the physics of it, when you have this pressurized sewage pipe, that if you have multiple connections and offshoots off of it, that it ends up causing like the dynamics of how much pressure you're supposed to put in with the corners and the junction. You just don't do that. Am I?
Through the chair, yeah. Sorry, Commissioner Freeman, I'm not an engineer on that side of things, but that's my general understanding as well, that, yeah, you would have to pressurize everything coming into the pipe and then manage the pressure, so you just don't do it that way.
Yeah, so the idea before was that even if you had a pretty large pipe going there, it's not really it. So.
Thank you. I know in the city of Santa Maria, we are mandated by the state to update our wastewater treatment plant. And it's going to cost us $400,000. I mean, millions. And we have no choice. So, and I think what what Commissioner Nelson was saying, the state comes in and takes over, and we have very, very little local control, and that would be my only concern. So try to keep your local control, but I don't know, because if the state says you're going to have other people hook up into that, that's what you'll have to do. Plus, you'll have to contribute and this is probably why Solvang says, yes, we'll take you now, is because maybe they're having to update their system also. Anyway, any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, we have 2 requests to speak, and we will begin in Santa Maria with Michelle DeWord.
Good afternoon, Chair Patino and the Commission. Thank you so much for your engagement and your discussion today, and I appreciate Chair Patino, your discussion about local control. Here's another perspective on, to continue on the conversation. To be full disclosure, I do not live in the district. I am a Los Olivos resident, but I'm outside of the district. But I speak to a lot of neighbors. I've lived in Los Olivos for 28 years, and I know a lot of people that live in the neighborhoods and in the district, all over the district. The concerns from people that I speak with is, how is it fair for all residents of the Los Olivos CSD who are not contributing to the degradation of the groundwater quality to be asked to continue to pay assessment fees and pay in perpetuity for a sewer system that will primarily benefit a handful of downtown commercial parcels that are contributing to the groundwater problem? It has been 7 years already. The board has spent vast amounts of money on consultants and lawyers. Over $1 million of other people's hard-earned money have been collected and spent. Today, we gather to discuss whether the board should assess the district residents for another 2 years to pursue a plan that the public had never okayed. I urge the Commission to help guide the LOCSD board to explain why the 2019 Resolution 19-04 was adopted unanimously by the board, signed by Mr. Fayram, who was chairman of the board at the time, and Mrs. Kennedy, and it mysteriously disappeared in the summer of 2001 during the pandemic when Hillary Hauser got involved, which we don't know why. Resolution 1904 declared the intent to begin special studies, the environmental process, the pursuit of grant and loan funding, and initiate Prop 218 assessment process, all to be consistent with the project description and consistent with the public workshops, input from citizens, the Regional Water Quality Board, and the County Environmental Health Department. The project included a phased approach to start with the downtown commercial core, the major effluent offender, and to begin groundwater testing and monitoring. Unbeknownst to the district residents, the project changed during the pandemic to construct a sewer treatment plant for the entire town, a gigantic, obscenely expensive project for the tiny community, and forcing all 372 parcels to pay for it, 40 commercial and 332 residential. There's no supporting data that necessitates the board to pursue a project to install a massively expensive town sewer system not required by law, which will undoubtedly encourage urban growth and sprawl and will destroy the quaint town of Los Olivos. This is a top concern for many people in the community in addition to the cost. Another nagging question that has not been addressed: are any wastewater treatment grants available for Los Olivos, a community not considered economically disadvantaged? And are grants tied to a particular project? Lastly, I hope you have the opportunity to review Catherine Rohr's letter that she submitted that Mr. Friedman, you had addressed. I agree with the letter, and I just wanted to elevate that. And it's important for us to remember that technology in this area is advancing at a rate the industry has probably never seen before. So the board needs to understand and remain have an open mind of finding a service provider that will be able to put together a solution that's the right size, the right location, and the price that the public can afford, and offers the best combination of technology that we need for now and the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Chair Patino and members of the commission, I did receive in before 5 p.m. yesterday public comment from Catherine Lohmeyer Rohr, who requested that it be read into the record per our agenda. I fully support the existence of the Los Olivos Community Services District, LOCSD, but I wish to express my considerable reservations about the size of the systems the board has paid and is paying to have studied for this tiny community. My concern arises out of current groundwater monitoring data showing that only a small cluster of very small lots in and around the downtown commercial core are contributing to dangerously high levels of nitrates in the community's groundwater. It appears neither fair or just that larger parcels that clearly are not contributing to the elevated nitrate levels remain roped into the special problems area designation and the boundary of the LOCSD. In my written comment for distribution to the commissioners, I provided maps and groundwater monitoring data showing that many of the 372 parcels included inside the LOCSD's boundary are larger agricultural and residential parcels that are not contributing to the groundwater contamination. Yet, if required to remain within the LOCSD's boundary, will be expected to pay assessment fees and to finance the installation, operation, and ongoing maintenance of a sewer system they do not need and in most cases cannot afford. I asked the commissioners to explore with the LOCSD representatives the reasoning behind asking farmers and other residents on larger, remote, and clearly not contributing parcels to take on the truly onerous burden of paying for an oversized and incredibly expensive system they do not need and from which they will not benefit.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Commissioner Nelson?
Yes, thank you. From our earlier discussion, it sounded like, just what Mr. Wirtz said, as well as Ms. Rohr, that if there's not a benefit that parcel owner doesn't have a benefit that they will be deriving from this improvement, they might not necessarily have to pay for it, or is it ends up being equal among all 372 members? I mean, how is it going to end up working out?
Yeah, so Commissioner Nelson, to the chair, that is a decision to be determined in the future, right? So once they decide what connectivity they're going to have, who's benefiting from that, they'll have a engineer report prepared that assesses that and what those costs would be for those individuals. And that's a separate action and process that the district will have to go through.
And they'll be needing to do that to sell this to a majority? Is that how this
right.
a 218 vote works? Is if a majority protest the...
Correct.
And so they're going to have to do something that brings along at least 50% plus one. Actually, if it's all right with the chair, I would love to hear from Ms. Kennedy on some of the comments that were been made by Mr. Wirt and by Ms. Rohr's letter. If you wanted to, I saw your head nodding. I saw you talking through some of that. It would be helpful for us to understand how the board is thinking about these concerns from some of your residents.
So I think it's important to understand that the county designated the district, the special problems district, and the parcels there that are included in. And as a homeowner who's on the outer edge, one of the larger parcels that's in that area that's not the well nearest us is actually pretty low on the nitrates. Nonetheless, the Regional Water Quality Board has said, well, it's still above what we want to see. So as far as the district boundary and the parcels that are included, again, this was a county decision. It wasn't the decision of the community to decide who should be in or are not in. And as far as, I'm trying to think back to some of the comments that, as far as the assessment goes, yes, as Mr. Prater noted, this is a benefit assessment. So clearly those who benefit more would pay more for the use of any sort of sewer system. It would most likely not be an equal cost to all homeowners. And again, depending on what we do, whether it's a step tank on the property or a gravity fed, there will be a connection fee that each parcel owner would pay. What that is exactly, that would be part of that whole assessment process determination. And we've tried continually try to update our numbers with as much accurate information as possible so that we can keep homeowners apprised of what that cost looks like. We know we have a lot of residents in our district who are on fixed income, and I completely understand this is a big concern. Anytime you're going to add something, whether it's monthly or annually, that's huge. And so the exploration work on grants, it has been challenging because, as Mr. Ward noted, we're not a special problems district. And frankly, after the pandemic, we saw a lot of our properties turn over and a lot of the prices went way up. And it's second homeowners. That's been a bit of a problem in terms of educating our community. Half the community lives there, half the community does not. So trying to do that outreach has been a bit of a challenge. Some residents have said, I don't care, just whatever, get it done. But again, we're trying to be as transparent and open, trying to keep the community apprised. I mean, we even host a little coffee with a director twice a month so that community members can come and just try to get their arms wrapped around what all of this is, what the costs look like. We definitely plan to pursue grants. That could be challenging in the coming years given where everything is going. But, we do fully expect we're going to go back to the county and say, once we have a vote and we have community buy-in, we are going to look to the county to help us. It is not, I'm just going to say it, we're a small district, small number of parcels. The economies of scale are challenging for sure. We're not a big community. But on the other hand, the county has said this needs to get done. And so, we're trying to do our best to navigate that tightrope, if you will.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And as somebody that's on the county side, we see the economic benefit of Los Olivos as well. So, I mean, there's some acknowledgement there that as we guys progress further into this process, I'm looking forward to hearing more and supporting my colleague up there in Santa Barbara, or down there in Santa Barbara, on these ongoing conversations. And I'm more than satisfied with moving forward with the extension. A lot of work sounds like this is ahead for all of you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Commissioner Stark.
Yeah, I actually, if you wouldn't mind staying here for a second, I just like to clarify. If my impression is correct, the county created a special problems area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And am I correct that, technically speaking, we created the community services district, or at least we approved it? Are the two coterminous? They have the same boundaries?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Oh, sorry. Oops,
Sorry.
That's not correct.
Commissioner Stark. No, actually, the special problems area, to your point, designated somewhere back in the 1970s, actually goes north of Highway 154. We often refer to it as the top hat because it's a nice little square that looks like a hat. So, no, the district just covers from 154 south.
So the district is smaller than the special problems area.
Correct.
But every property that is in the district is within the special problems area. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And nobody but the county can do anything about the size of the special problems area. Is that right? We don't have any authority over them.
Yeah, I don't know either if that's water board or the county. I'm looking back at one of my county colleagues back here. Maybe he knows. Do you?
Commissioner Stark, through the chair, the special problems area was designated by the Board of Supervisors. So it'd be the county Board of Supervisors that would need to modify those properties.
Thank you. And I guess it's a related question. The related question is my impression correct that if you proceed with the financing options that are available to you under this state constitution, Proposition 13C and Article 13C and Article 13D, that you technically, you being the board of the Community Services District, has a certain amount of discretion in choosing which finance option you could do. You could, for example, if you wanted to, put on a special tax, which would require a 2/3 vote, or you can go through a property assessment procedure with the protest hearing and things like that. Is that basically right? You have some discretion over how you'd want to proceed.
Again, Guy Savage, General Manager. My understanding of the way this works is similar to yours, Commissioner Stark, yes. There is some latitude for the board to, in that. It's not infinite latitude, but there is some latitude as to how that's best approached.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just one thing. Bottom line, none of this has anything to do with how much time you'll need to complete this. What you're telling me, us, is that you can't get it done immediately, so you need a couple of years to get all this finished. Is that sort of your bottom line?
The request today is for a two-year extension to get us to that Prop 218 that basically authorizes the district to move forward to build a plant or to connect to Solvang or whatever.
Thanks. Am I detecting a relatively high degree of confidence that you might be able to get this done within this 2-year period?
Yes, is the short answer. If I may just a little bit longer answer, I spent 20 years working for the County of San Luis Obispo. It rolls up to and including the county administrator. This is the first plan that I've been 100% confident in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? What about Santa Barbara? Hearing none?
None here.
Yes. Commissioner Hartman? Oh, none? Okay. Thank you. So do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval. Commissioner Guyer.
Hartman seconds.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Patino, and I would just like to note for the record, before I do roll call, that Commissioner Mosby will be voting in place of Commissioner Kiriako, who has left.
Thank you.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Did you need the name of the gentleman that spoke for the record? Okay.
Correct, Jason Johnson, Santa Barbara County Environmental Health.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to items of information. The next item for information is item 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, information item number 1 is to receive and file a letter from the LAFCO Board of Directors.
Okay, and Mr. Prater?
Okay, thank you, Chair and Commission. So this is a letter provided by the LAFCO Chair that basically addresses the concerns and the strategies that they are undertaking to address the concerns and strengthen the membership itself. It's their latest update to the efforts that they have undertaken. So this is just to keep the commission appraised of the steps and measures that the LAFCO board is doing to do that.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any public comment?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. The next item is information item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Information item number 2 is to receive and file a report on the LAFCO 2025 current tracked legislation.
Mr. Prater?
Thank you, Chair. So this is includes the attachments of the Ledge Committee and their agenda and the topics that they've been talking about, which also included the number of tracked bills that they're following. Listed were 17 bills. Most recently, the Ledge Committee held a meeting on March 25th. And in that meeting, we had our liaisons, advocates, bring forward the list of 17 bills and kind of give us a rundown of what they thought was most germane and important. And I took away 3 bullet points as a takeaway, which was this year of legislation has a lot of spot bills that were in there. And spot bills, if you follow the legislation track, are just placeholders for a bill that a legislator wants to someday hold a item for. Oftentimes, those spot bills have nothing to do with what they initiate the bill under, and it becomes something completely different. So much of the list of the 17 basically will be dropped off of our watch list because many of them have nothing to do with ultimately LAFCOs throughout the state. So outside of that, the last thing that was discussed was we are looking for an author to sponsor our omnibus bill, which has 4 changes to it within the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act that's going through the process. So outside of that, that's a brief update of the current tract bills. Again, much of it's going to wait and see what flushes out after the next go-around of the legislative process.
Thank you. Any questions or?
I do. I have a question
Commissioner Stark?
through the chair, if I might to direct it to Mr. Prater. Mr. Prater, to your knowledge, is the legislative committee tracking any portion of the latest Buffy Wicks housing package, which my understanding is it contains a whole raft of legislation that probably needs to be gone through to determine how many of these are serious and relevant. Is there any of them aimed at LAFCO? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge, but I will write that down.
Did you find
and
out?
We'll
That would
find
be
out
good to know.
if that pops up on our radar.
Thank you.
I think I'll be getting some information on that, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So anything I get, I will just send to you. I'm on the Housing Commission for the state, so I will send that to you. Any other questions, Commissioner? Any questions or discussion in Santa Barbara?
No?
Okay, hearing none. Any public comment?
Chair Patino, we have no request to speak on this item.
Next item is information item number 3. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Information item number 3 is an update from the 2025 LAFCO staff workshop.
Mr. Prater.
Okay, so the LAFCO staff workshop this year will be held in Temecula, California, April 30th through May 2nd. So included in this packet is that announcement and the registration. We have already registered the 3 staff members that will be attending on our behalf of our commission. And that's kind of, any questions about that, we'll be happy to share whatever comes out of that workshop if we're appraised of any of the latest and greatest for the commission. And then lastly, the 2024 Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Acts guides have been made available. We have a digital form, and we will be ordering any of the hard copies for those that typically like the hard copies with 3-hole punch. So when that order comes through, we'll make our traditional order for those commissioners that like hard copies. Outside of that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Commissioner Stark?
At the risk of offending our San Diego colleagues, Temecula? It seems like a strange place to have a conference.
Actually, in Riverside. We will be offending San Diego
Riverside.
by moving Temecula
Hard
into
to do.
Fair County.
Okay. Any comments or discussion from Santa Barbara?
Thank you, no.
Any public comment?
Chair Patino, we have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. The next item is information item number 4. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Information item number 4 is to receive and file a report on the CLE Land Use Conference to be held June 2nd to the 3rd, 2025.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any comments or discussion on that one?
I have a request.
Yes.
I cannot attend this. It looks like an excellent conference with a lot of substance to it. I can't attend because my wife's having surgery in that time and I'm on rehab duty. I would like a copy of the materials. And I don't know how you get them. If anybody else is going, get a PDF, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Or a PDX?
PDX too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in any event, if I could find a way to get the materials, I would really appreciate it because I just can't go.
Thank you. Any public comment on this?
Chair Patino, we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, are there any commissioner announcements or requests for future agenda items? There you go, Commissioner Hartman.
Thank you. And again, this is Commissioner Geyer's suggestion. I'm just putting it in a
Okay.
motion that a future agenda item bring back a look at LAFCO's fees in comparison to other LAFCOs for the possible consideration of a fee study and fee increase.
Thank you.
Chair Patino.
Any others?
This is Commissioner Guyer. Yeah,
Yes, Commissioner Guyer.
I'm not so concerned about comparison of other LAFCO fees. I'm really concerned about ours because mostly, I think it was probably around 2012 when I first really got involved with this. I was concerned about having a cost recovery basis. So the main objective would be what our costs are and how closely we are to recovering them. I realize we'll never have 100% recovery, but 2017, that was a few days ago. So what I would really like to see is what the CPI is, what they've changed since then, because the biggest thing in our budget is salary, is employee costs. And so if we can at least take a look at where they were in 2017, what the CPI changes were in all those years, and to me, that would be a good start to take a look at it, because I think that we have an obligation to the participants in LAFCO to at least show that we're trying to recover costs.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any executive,
Madam Chair, I may on that item.
yes.
In order to add an item to the future agendas, there does need to be a vote, motion and a vote. However, I would like to add some additional commentary. Our current fee structure is a full cost recovery. So it's a deposit based on what a typical average application would cost at staff time. If it goes beyond that time, we charge the applicant for that additional cost. And so that's the structure now, but we can certainly bring it back to see if the fee schedule needs to be updated and look at what our actual costs are in comparison. So I'm happy to do that, but we would need a vote and a motion, or a motion and a vote on adding that agenda item so that it's clear that you want staff to work on that.
So Director Prater, how would you frame the motion? I would like the comparison, and Commissioner Guyer would like a comparison to CPI, but how does that fit within our full cost recovery model?
Yeah, I would just consider a fee schedule update that shows comparisons as a motion.
So moved.
Consider a fee schedule update showing comparisons with other LAFCOs and CPI.
Perfect. So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it if no one else will.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby,
Aye.
Commissioner Patino,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the Santa Barbara County Local Agency Formation Commission is adjourned to 1 p.m. on May 8th, 2025 in Santa Maria. And no further business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.